Ho, 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 wrestling fans. This is episode number 317 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, and it's Christmas. Hopefully you guys and gals got everything you wanted and more, and the final gift that you get tonight is the Hot Tags, hosted by yours truly, Tony Mango. For newcomers, this is the portion of the week where I'll be breaking down some of the most topical current events, rumors, news, gossip, and other nonsense that happened over the past couple of days in the world of professional wrestling. And since it's the holidays, there really haven't been too many things going on recently. But let's talk about the smattering of things we do have to talk about, starting with the idea that Vince McMahon hates the one fall chants, which is why you're not going to be hearing it anymore. And if you've been paying attention recently, you haven't been seeing that kind of opportunity for people to start chanting that in the crowd. Greg Hamilton of SmackDown was the one who probably leaned the most heavily into that and would kind of set up the crowd a little bit. You know, this contest is scheduled for one fall. Wait a second. Everybody goes, one fall. And it is scheduled for, a 20-minute time limit or whatever else he would say that would follow it up. Nobody really says the time limit stuff anymore, but that's because they don't really want to, actually do the time limit draws. But that would be a good way to write themselves out of, having to do DQs and stuff, wouldn't it? But no, okay, different story. But apparently the reason why is because Vince McMahon hates it, which there's two things to break down here. Number one, why? Like, why hate this? And number two, it's something that we should be used to by now, that Vince McMahon doesn't like something, so that's why it's not happening anymore. Because these weird things happen from time to time. Like, McMahon has his issues with people having different names, and that's why we get Elias instead of just Elias Sampson, and he's no longer Alexander Rusev, and there's no Antonio Cesaro, and, different things like that. Sheamus O'Shaughnessy, he used to be that. Apparently the latest thing is that Vince McMahon doesn't like the one fall chant, and I don't understand why, because of one main factor. The crowd is getting into it. Now, if we are supposed to believe in this rhetoric of it doesn't matter what the fans are chanting as long as they're having fun, so it's okay for them to boo Roman Reigns and John Cena, then shouldn't it be okay for them to chant one fall? So that goes to prove right there, they don't believe in that. And it's just company speak, and if you didn't think that already, then that's just more proof. Because if that were to be the case, then they wouldn't have that same phrase in their back pocket. If the one fall chants bothered him enough, then you would think he would do something other about it than to just be like, why don't we try to make sure that they don't chant that? There's no redirect of, we would like them to chant this instead because we can copyright this or something like that, where sometimes that happens. I mean, we've seen that before where somebody's had a little bit of a catchphrase and they've kind of tweaked it a little bit just to see if they can kind of trademark that or something. But nope. Apparently he just doesn't like the one fall chants, and instead of letting the fans do what they want, it's let's try to censor them. That is unfortunate because, like I said a second ago, that goes to show that it doesn't matter if you're having fun. It matters if you're following what they want you to enjoy, and what they don't want you to enjoy is off the product. So keep chanting whatever you want to chant. Unfortunately, that means that people chanted CM Punk at John Cena's segment tonight, but we'll get into that a little bit. Let's first go into a couple of the other things that we got going on here. I don't know too much about this topic, so this is going to be real quick. Ring of Honor's War Machine is supposed to be starting in WWE in January, and the current rumor is that they are going to be appearing in the tapings that are going to happen after NXT TakeOver Philadelphia. So really, I guess technically in February is when they will be getting started, but they could be recording, 29th or whatever it is, I think. I don't remember for sure exactly when WrestleMania is, but maybe that's when they record it. Maybe they record February 1st or something. I don't know. War Machine is some team that I'm not familiar with, so I don't really know the positives and negatives as far as that, but as I have always said, if WWE does see some value in them, then cool. Bring them on board and let me see for myself if I like them or not. If I don't know them, I can't say that I dislike them, and I can't say that I love them. But that is the scoop as far as that is concerned. Ricochet has also been rumored too, but I haven't been hearing his name too much in comparison to War Machine, so put a little bit of a pin in that. Possibility that he pops up, possibility that he doesn't. Let's talk about the Mixed Match Challenge, which is going to be happening in January. Apparently, the original idea for that was it was supposed to be an all-women's show before they changed it to the mixed tag thing. So that in itself is another kind of thing where it goes, all right, well, I guess the rhetoric changes. With all this talk about the women's revolution, now it's the women's evolution. I don't know why they've changed it. Divas revolution, women's revolution, women's evolution. Just call it the women's revolution. You switched it once already. It's not the evolution now. That must have gotten them a little bit afraid to just do an all-women's show. Maybe they don't want it to fail and put that kind of pressure on all the women. And they figured if they put the men in there too, then that might kind of offset things and stuff. And we're far too early to see whether or not the Mixed Match Challenge is going to be a success, but it seems like it's been met with some positive results. So we'll see how like the viewership ends up going. But an all-women's show versus a mixed tag thing, I mean, you can't call it a Mixed Match Challenge if it was the women's show, so I have to assume it was some other kind of name that they were shopping around. But at least with the Mixed Match Challenge, that seems like it'll be kind of fun. And maybe if that works out, maybe they'll try an all-women's show in the future. Maybe this is kind of a test run, and they can kind of play around with things, whether it's an all, well, they were not going to do like an all-cruiserweight show because it's 205 Live, but, you know, an all something or other. Maybe it's all legends coming back. Maybe it's all NXT people on another edition. Maybe it's the super heavyweight. So, you know, they could do different things like that. It could be that 405 Live thing that we were talking about before. Second to last topic that we have to talk about here, this is going to be a real quick edition of the hot tags. The AJ Lee book, Crazy is My Superpower, is apparently going to be turned, at least potentially, into a TV series. I have not read the book. I don't know really all that much about it, but as far as I do know, I think it's just basically her memoir of, like, this is how I went from being somebody who really, really wanted to be in the wrestling business and didn't have that kind of stardom to somebody who was able to actually accomplish that, and her struggles along the way, and blah, 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 blah. I guess this is going to be kind of a TV show of sort of along the lines of, like, people struggling and then succeeding. It doesn't seem, at least as far as what I had read, that it's going to be a story about AJ Lee, but it could be. If it is, I don't know if they have that much material, because AJ Lee was only on the roster for a little bit of time. I think it was like 4 years or so. And that was really not something you can milk into like the biggest amount of content. I don't know if she really had like the biggest struggles in the world too. Like, I mean, some other people have had a worse story, it seems. And even those, I wouldn't really shop into a TV show. But it's a TV series in theory right now. If you pay attention to any kind of TV show, TV shows are not some guarantee. I mean, you pretty much make a TV pilot and it might not even get seen by people on the network, let alone actually airing. And then when you air a pilot, then that doesn't guarantee that you've got a full season. So this could be something where we get to see the pilot shopped around, and maybe it does air, maybe it gets a whole season, maybe it gets 5 seasons or something like that. Or it could be like ABC had that Most Wanted TV show that spin off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they never released it at all. They just decided to not pick it up, and nobody's seen it. So they didn't even put that like on a DVD as like a special thing. It's just like, hey, look at this, but this was our TV show that we were thinking about doing. Nah. So I don't think that this is necessarily going to work out all that well. But if it does, I'll check it out, and I'll tell you guys whether or not you should see it or skip it. Real quick about see it or skip it, the best of Season 2 of Ride Along, skip it. If you've seen the episodes before, you've already seen the content. If you haven't seen the episodes before, they kind of truncate everything enough that it doesn't seem like it really gets that much of an impact. So you're missing some of the fun, you're missing some of the setup for the jokes, and actually just some of the jokes themselves, because they kind of had to, like, you know, cut them out and stuff, but skip it. Go watch the episodes themselves if you really want to see. But the final thing we're going to talk about here is actually something that I don't know, that I don't normally do, which is my thoughts on this episode of Monday Night Raw. This was the Christmas edition of the show, and we had a couple of things happen that I think were a particular note, and a couple other things that, you know, weren't necessarily at all. Breakdown of some of it from top to bottom is going to go, like, you know, way too long, and I'm not going to tell you absolutely everything that happened, because if you do want to check that out, go ahead on the website and check out the breakdown there, or just watch the episode of Monday Night Raw if you really want to. But the most notable thing to talk about is that Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan are now the Raw Tag Team Champions. That is something that I'm not too into. And it's not because of some kind of Jordan hate, because I actually think that he gets crapped on a lot more than he deserves. The reason why is I don't really like that whole makeshift tag team thing. And when the story for a tag team is, these two can't get along, how are they going to be champions? It always ends the same. Well, it's one of two ways. Either they grow to respect each other and they become a legitimate tag team like what the Bar did, or they don't last super long. They argue, they split up, they lose the tag team titles to somebody else, and then they feud for a hot minute, and then that's the end of it. Between the two options, I'd rather see them split up next week even. And I don't like that in the history books, Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins are the Raw Tag Team Champions, because I don't think that we're going to get a whole lot out of this. And I know that they probably wanted to have Rollins and Ambrose win those belts back, but they probably should have just done that instead of waiting all this time. And maybe that would have avoided the whole injury of Dean Ambrose if they would have booked things differently or something. I don't know. But I am not interested in seeing the breakup between Rollins and Jordan. And I don't want that to happen before WrestleMania and for them to build up to a WrestleMania match, because that is not worth that. Nor do I really want to see the two of them go into WrestleMania either defending the titles or fighting for the titles. I really just kind of don't care about this tag team. And it's weird to say that because the Bar is a team that I like enough that if they would have kept the titles, I would have preferred that. But if they would have lost them to somebody else, I would have preferred that even more. And the Good Brothers, I think, deserve a babyface run with those belts. The Revival, I would have much, much rather had be the next team champions. So I'm hoping right now Rollins and Jordan bicker for a couple weeks, and somewhere around the Royal Rumble, maybe not too far after that, I'd like to see the Revival just take those titles. So the Revival versus the Bar versus the Good Brothers or whatever at WrestleMania. Throw it on the pre-show because nobody really cares too much on that. Rollins and Jordan, they can be in the Battle Royal. I mean, that sucks for them because they both kind of deserve better than that, but I don't think that we're going to get anything good with them coming up to this year's WrestleMania, so blah. Some other things on the show, though, real quick. John Cena and Elias had a whole segment at the beginning of the show, fans chanting CM Punk because they were in Chicago. I hate that so much. I mentioned before about it's okay for them to cheer whatever they want, but at the same time, why cheer somebody who just turned his back on all of you and doesn't give a shit? I don't know. I do like Elias a lot, though. He shouldn't have beaten John Cena, so I'm glad that John Cena won. It makes sense. Good for John Cena giving his hat and shirt to the kid in the crowd. That was nice. Kurt Angle on the mic, talking about some stuff. Nothing really all that interesting throughout the episode. Hideo Itami beats Brian Kendrick by pinfall. Absolution beats Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Mickie James in the same old 6-women tag match that we've been getting as of late. That's not really all that interesting. The Miztourage sing some carols. Didn't do too much for me. Kane defeated Heath Slater. This is the first step in Slater getting toughened up by Rhino. Kind of curious to see where that goes. I really liked the little backstage segment where Samoa Joe was talking about injuring Dean Ambrose, and he was talking to Renee Young, and he said, you know, now that he's injured, he can stay home and spend the holidays with his loved ones. And she had that kind of like, I hate you, you're a bastard look on your her face, and he had that kind of like, nah, he's not with you right now. Like, I like that a lot. That was a nice little touch. Backstage thing with the Miztourage again, not really all that funny with Santa's little helper. Finn Balor beats Kurt Hawkins. He keeps that losing record going. We had a Miracle on 34th Street fight between Cedric Alexander, Akira Tozawa, and Mustafa Ali, defeating the Zoe Train that we still have left, Arya Daivari, Drew Gulak, and Enzo Amore. Kind of fun. Not all that great in the grand scheme of things. Nobody's going to remember it. It's not like, oh man, we recorded our end of the year awards and we have to put this as like the best match and, you know, retroactively re-record it. It's not going to happen. There was a little fun segment between Enzo and Nia Jax underneath the mistletoe. They had a little, you know, we're about to kiss kind of thing, and Alexa Bliss interrupts her. Alexa later on would have a whole promo where Asuka would come out and basically say, I'm going to win the Women's Royal Rumble, and you're fucked. Braun Strowman beats up Dallas and Axel. Crowd was eating that up. They kept asking him for more power slams. And they did a little thing with Roman Reigns beating up Samoa Joe and retaining the Intercontinental Championship, but only by disqualification. So that's clearly not over yet. And I still think that Samoa Joe is winning that title somewhere around the Royal Rumble. Maybe beforehand, maybe on that pay-per-view itself. But that's it. That's your Christmas edition of Monday Night Raw. I don't think it was necessarily good enough that they really should have recorded this. I think that we could have done anything that we did here next week, and it would have been okay. And all the men and women should have kind of gotten that night off. You know? Tomorrow night, we are going to have our SmackDown episode, which is not technically a holiday episode because it's the 26th, but they're treating it sort of as that, with a little bit of limited commercials and probably a still like holiday theme kind of going on with it. I'll be really curious to see how that is, because we need to figure out what's happening with Ziggler and the United States title. We need to figure out some potential stuff for the Royal Rumble coming up soon and see where everything goes with Shane McMahon and stuff. But no big reaction when it comes to that on the podcast stuff, because the content that you guys are going to be seeing next is going to be that aforementioned 2017 Smark Out Moment Awards podcast that we recorded the other day. So that is going to be coming up on Wednesday is when I'm going to set that to auto-publish. Stay tuned for all that. And if you want to be aware of when that gets published, then hit that subscribe button on YouTube and ring the bell. Check it off for notifications. Then you'll get those notifications. And another way to do that is if you subscribe on Facebook and Twitter at Smark Out Moment, or subscribe to the RSS feed on smarkoutmoment.com. I should be republishing that awards thing a little bit earlier in that day before I leave in the morning. And yeah, so that is what you got to look forward to. The week after that, we're going to be doing our one to watch and future endeavors forecast for 2018. It's going to take a while for me to get used to saying 2018. I almost said 2017 there. And you will get bombarded with a whole bunch of pay-per-view posts and a bunch of other things on the very first of the year. But until then, Merry Christmas, everybody, if you celebrate it. Happy holidays in any other fashion if you celebrate anything else. And since I won't actively be talking to all of you when it comes down to it, Happy New Year as well. Hopefully you guys all stay safe throughout this holiday season. And I will talk to you next time. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and I'm being counted out.